Alright, let's just dive in. This is how I'm going to start making a doll. The first step would be to come up with what we call an ortho view, which is an orthographic view. I'm just going to use this as a rough example, because Eileen Doll have not released Becky again, and I want her very bad. But, so what you want to do is, I'm using Clip Paint Studio, and you're going to make a new canvas. You're going to want it to be a square. It doesn't really matter while you're drawing what shape it is. I like to use the symmetrical tool, the symmetrical ruler, which you can find down here. You can hold shift and then click and drag, and it'll go perfectly up and down, perfectly vertical. So we're going to use that. So I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to use that symmetrical ruler, and first thing I'm going to do is use spheres, because you want spheres to be, the basis of your joints. So I am going to put some spheres where we need some for the hips, the elbows. You also need one for the neck. You'll also need some for the wrists and the ankles. And we can move these around later. This is just an example. So I like to keep my circles on a separate layer. So I'm going to make another layer. And basically what you're going to do is just kind of draw your design, and I'll try and give you some tips while I work. So I like to have the sphere kind of butt off the neck so it has a little bit more range of motion. Another thing that we want to make sure we have is space for our wall thickness. So our shoulders can't just like be smooth right into the sphere. We gotta give them a little bit of room. Otherwise it's gonna be too thin. And you can make it, go out, you can make it go in, but I wouldn't make it go like that. I would curve it like that, or more inward. And what you'll want to draw the front and side view of your artwork. And so what I do is, you'll also kind of want, for an upper body joint, it doesn't have to be a perfect sphere, but you want it to be kind of, something like that. And we want it to go inside the chest piece. And then I find hips to be kind of the hardest thing to make. They always look really big. We want to make sure that there is enough here to hold the ball, the socket joint. So from the back, it'll probably have a bit of a butt like this. And I think those shoulders are too wide. So I'm going to move them in and make that chest a little smaller. I'm kind of just using this doll as a guide because I like this doll's general aesthetic. I've been told that dolls that are at a smaller size, like USD, I design all of my dolls to start at the size of 28 centimeters because I think it's easier to scale them up and not too bad to scale them down when they're starting at that size. They also are more portable and use less materials. We need a belly button. But back to what I was saying. I've been told that some people use like these peanut joints on legs, but I've been told those can be kind of unstable. I'm too lazy to make any kind of spinning mechanism right here. Well, maybe one day I'll do it, but for the basics, I just do a basic one. And you can see here, excuse me, how this kind of goes in. That's so that when the leg goes up, there's a little space for it right here. So when I make a thigh, you can do them like this, just straight down. It's fine, but you'll have a straight line right here. If you want it to go in a little bit, it looks kind of more nice looking. And now I feel like knees give a lot of people trouble, but I'll let you in on a secret. Knees aren't that bad, especially if you use like my knee joint. I made one decent knee joint and I reuse it for everything. Another thing you want to keep in mind is when your doll is strung, the string is going to be as straight as possible. It's going to want to be as taut as possible. So if you try and make a leg that's like this, like an anthro leg, it's not going to want to work all that well because it has to bend here, it has to bend here, and it's going to be trying to pull itself straight, so it's going to continue to buckle. So your doll will be very kicky and constantly want to bend its legs like this instead of standing upright. So you can combat that with locks. I have a couple locking mechanisms I can show you how I model. But for the most part, you kind of want your inner channels to be as straight as possible, and then have all the detail kind of like fit around that. So like that, you know. Pretending that's a big foot because you want it as up and down. Oops. Also, having larger sockets for like the hands and feet, they have a little bit more range of motion if they're actually, you know, if the sphere goes outside and it kind of just rests on top, than if the sphere is sucked inside. I'm trying not to copy this too much. I have to move my circles. Okay, we'll do it like that. Because we need a little bit of a wall for the spheres to fit. I'm gonna make these feet not quite as long as Becky's feet. I kind of like them kind of short and stubby. Now, when you're designing stuff like Becky here, you have to be a little careful because this hand is so big, it's going to be really heavy. And what I like to do for my arms is I will actually draw them. Well, we can draw them going downward, but you're going to want to start here, and you want your arm to kind of come off like this. You know, that way it has space for the body. we also need to make sure that there is a sphere for the wrist joint. So this lower arm piece might be too short. Let's move this joint up. Go. I love that Becky only has 4 fingers. She's so cute. Okay. So proportion-wise, I think the wrist ends right about here. This might not be correct. It's been a while since I've had life drawing. But we draw on the arm straight down, and I'm going to just rotate it from the middle of here and point it outward. I'm gonna hold shift while I do that, actually. There we go. I'll put the other one like this. Okay, there we go. I'm going to make the head on a separate layer. There's different ways you can make a head. You can make the head cap on the top of the head. You can make it on the back of the head. You can make the head, you can make a face plate so that when you want to change the eyes, you just take the face off. I'm going to turn the opacity down here. These bad boys. Oh, oops. Oh, there. And when you model this, you don't have to make it symmetrical. Faces aren't actually always totally symmetrical. Becky's eyes are a very cute shape, but I want to make my own. I also know that I want the ears to be magnetic. Kind of wing shaped, just because I think it's cute. Okay, cool. I'm not totally happy with this, but we're just making an example anyway, so it's fine. I am going to make these legs a little bit thicker. And I like to make heart knees. And I can show you tricks on how to do that when modeling too. When you make a heart knee, you gotta make sure that there isn't too much, like you can't have this kind of shape. Because there's no way for this piece to go up. Like, it's got this underhang and it won't go up. So that's why when you make a heart, you kind of want to put it up here. That way there's, you know, enough. It can go just straight up and straight down. No underhangs. So we're going to say that this is done. And what I do for ZBrush, because I use ZBrushCORE and I don't know how to import artwork, also going to make this neck thicker. This neck also needs to go way further down. That's way too high up in the head, that ball socket. It needs to be a lot more down. Excuse me. Oh my goodness, where is this layer? About like that. We might make that a little bit smaller. Okay, there we go. Okay, so there's our orthographic view. I'm going to put all that in a folder. And what I'm going to do to make sure that this is centered in this square is I'm going to control click my folder. And I'm going to go to edit crop. Oh, oops. Before I do that, I need to flip rotate this arm and make that as even with the other side as I can. Okay, now we're going to crop it. Edit crop. I'm going to change my canvas size, and I'm going to just do 5 by 5. Okay. So now we've got this directly in the center of our canvas. We also need to make the horizontal side. And you want it to match as closely as possible. That's why tracing is a thing. You can do it. It's not bad. As long as you're honest about it. So I trace the eye. I'm just going to shove it this way. I need to make sure that the head is as tall as it is up here as it is on the side. And that the chin goes all the way there. Okay. And the nose starts about here. Okay, we're going to move this eye. I'm going to trace this mouth. I'm just going to pull it over here. The hardest part about making orthos is making them look good from both the side and the front. And when you model, you'll end up having to make changes anyway. You want this to be the same. We need this to go. We need this part to go as low as it is there and as high as it is here. It doesn't have to be perfect because you'll figure it out while you model too. I would not draw the arm, I would just draw the arm socket so that you can see. We're going to rush through this a little bit. Gonna center that leg. Oops. There we go. We want to have some kind of hold right here. It doesn't have to be a lot, but something. Just to cup that ball. Then it'll change as you model too. This is just more a really basic guide. I also want to give her like a little heart-shaped tail. That's probably going to just be a magnet. Okay. So that's not perfect, and we will probably change things up. I think I'm going to pull her upper body back a little bit. Give her more of a little S-curve. Sweet. And now I'm going to just put this over here. A little bit more, actually. Actually, I'm going to put it on the right. Okay. And I want this all to kind of fit in a square. So we've got our front, we've got our side. You could also do a back. It'd be smart too, but you don't have to. Generally, I just kind of eyeball the back after I make the front. I'm going to save it as ortho. And what I'm going to do is save it as a PNG. Then I'm going to open that PNG. I'm going to go to Edit. Okay, first we're going to select all. Selection. Invert selected area? No, okay. How do I invert the colors? I just use Control I. It'll invert your colors. And now we're going to save that PNG again. And we're basically making what I call a height map. But I'll do that in another video. For now, you just want to get your art drawn, front and side. And there you go.